YCS Sacramento was one of the weirdest events until we saw this post by Konami. Today, I'm going to be breaking down everything that means and what does YCS Sacramento mean for our ban lists. Let's go ahead and jump on in. What's going on with ya, big dog? And it is an amazing day for Yu-Gi-Oh! I hope that your day phenomenal. But if it isn't, don't let what happened at the beginning of your day ruin the rest of your day. And as always, you guys should already know it is Update Monday, a particular time where we talk about something to not only better you as a player, but to better you as a person. That's way more important. And in case you guys did not know or are late to the party, I've just been straight kicking rheumatoid arthritis' ass. I think it's officially been 3 years, my boy. And that's something that I actually want to talk to you guys about. When I first got rheumatoid arthritis, I didn't know what was going on. Things changed in my life. The only thing that is guaranteed to stay constant in your life is change. But I think one of the most important things that can happen to you is how you adapt to that change. What I like to do in these particular situations is to find a good thing that we can get out of any particular situation. Like for me, getting rheumatoid arthritis helped me open up to you guys to talk to you, which I'd like to say did have a positive effect on the community. Sometimes it's not always there or in plain sight, but I promise you, if you work towards it, you will figure out a goal. All you gotta do is stay positive. And that's pretty much what this ban list got me doing, staying positive. A few weeks ago, Konami made a post saying that there was going to be a ban list released in late August. And currently, it's late August. Now, it's pretty obvious we're not getting one today, but I think the huge reason is because of YCS Sacramento and all of the events that happened over the weekend. It is incredibly obvious because of this post that Konami uses TCG events as a testing ground to figure out which cards should be banned. Which, by the way, I want to go on record saying it's the worst idea ever. And it's mainly because Yu-Gi-Oh! Players don't know the new cards that are coming out. And there's a very, very few select people that know exactly how to play Yu-Gi-Oh! It would have been a smarter idea for, I don't know, Konami to make their own testing group, but that doesn't really seem to be the case. Of course, big dog, when the ban list does drop, I will make sure that you know it the very second. Just make sure that you have your notifications turned on all so you can receive all of the amazing content. And of course, subscribe if you haven't. But moving on to YCS Sacramento, this particular event had 915 players, where if you were to compare it to an LA event, typically regionals get about 1,000. But that really wouldn't be a fair assessment. To give you guys just a small geography lesson, California is big enough to be its own country. NorCal and SoCal are two completely different regions. As Californian as I am not from NorCal. I can't even get hyphy. Hey bro, I be swearing, they be doing like, I can't dance. The closest and most recent YCS that has happened was YCS San Jose, which is roughly about 2 hours away from Sacramento, and that particular event had 1,200 players. Now, 300 less people is a pretty big drop-off, is comparable to losing a regular regional-sized event amount of people. And I think that there's multiple factors here. One of the biggest things being that there has been no ban list in 4 months, and Yu-Gi-Oh! Players are just getting sick and tired of what's been going on. It also could be because Konami does a terrible job at advertising YCSs. I actually know quite a few people that did not know YCS San Jose was going down, or even what date was it. I'm guilty of that. But I did stream the first day, and I watched the entire second day, and there were some awesome and encouraging things that we can take from it. I think that it's best to talk about some of the interesting and most popular cards being used, and talk about how they'll have an impact regardless of what ban list is coming through. As you guys should already know, one of the biggest things about this format is Feedsmith. And players have really zoned in playing the Bisteel monsters to be able to counter this engine. It's really good because not only does it allow you to be able to get rid of monsters like Feedsmith Engraver, it also provides a huge monster to your side of the field that you can use for your plays. And specifically, I've noticed that a lot of players have been opting to play more Bisteel Baldrake because it has so many cool interactions. Being able to tribute a light or dark monster to be able to banish a monster that summons works perfectly with another card that players are using in Fantastical Dragon Phantasme. Phantasme not only allows you to be able to fix your hand and get into more hand traps or disruptive cards, possibly even the Bisteels, as well as being tributed by Baldrake, it also can protect your monsters from targeting effects. These cards in tandem with one another have been crazy good, and because Feedsmith is pretty weak to both of these cards, players have been using them like crazy. I've also noticed that Molchummy Perilia has become a must-play staple Yu-Gi-Oh card. And it's pretty unfortunate knowing this, seeing that it is a secret rare and isn't as accessible as it should be. But we've seen the impact that this card has had against certain decks. In my opinion, some of these cards have been a part of a symptom than rather being an actual problem, kind of like how Ghost Sister and Spooky Dogwood is pretty much everywhere right now. And players are even getting more disgusting with their time cards to make sure that they win the game. See, why Yu-Gi-Oh is best of 3, most of the game ones take about 40 minutes of gameplay. This pretty much means that anytime you play a game after game 1, if you can play some cards that give you life points or inflict damage to your opponent, you almost guarantee the game too. It's gotten to a point where time management isn't just a piece of playing Yu-Gi-Oh, it is everything about playing Yu-Gi-Oh, and that can be for an entirely different video, and I'm already cooking up something about that, big dog. According to the Konami blog, the top 32 breakdown had 56% Fiendsmith Snake Eye, one was Millennium Fiendsmith Snake Eye, which is essentially the same thing, 3% Fiendsmith Memento, 25% Fiendsmith Yubel, 7% Tenpai, 6% Runic, and 3% White Forest Runic. And I think that we've seen enough YCSs to know that Snake Eyes is a huge problem. I did have a lot of hope for decks like Ritual Beast and Tenpai Dragon, especially after the European National Championship that happened, but going back to what we just saw before is very disheartening, especially considering that I have a really interesting take that I want to know your thoughts on. We all know that Snake Eyes is the problem. There's no doubt about that. But I actually think that Fiendsmith isn't as good as people think. Fiendsmith has been helping strategies that have never been considered competitive ever before. There's Fiendsmith Yubel, Fiendsmith Memento, Fiendsmith Magical Musketeers, and you can even go a little bit deeper. There's other decks like Fiendsmith Plunder Patrol and Evil Eye, and if you're starting to catch on, it's all fitting a theme. This is legitimately good Fiend support. I'm not saying that other Yu-Gi-Oh strategies can't take advantage of the Fiendsmith engine. What I'm saying is once you remove Snake Eyes from the equation, Fiendsmith actually becomes fun and introduces other strategies into the game. I know that's gonna ruffle up a couple of feathers, and some people may say in order for Fiendsmith to be healthy, a couple of cards will need to be banned, and I wholeheartedly agree. Take, for example, Beatrice, Lady of the Eternal. This card should not exist anymore. If anything, this event has confirmed that Beatrice should be on the next ban list. Beatrice has now found herself as a part of FTKs, but more importantly, being able to search Yu-Gi-Oh cards that are instant blowouts against the opponent. It's already bad enough that floodgates exist, but being able to search a specific floodgate for your opponent is kind of crazy. Just recently, players have been using Beatrice to send Angel of Blue Tears to search Magic Deflector to be able to stop all quick play, equip, and field spell cards. And the fact that as of right now, playing Fiendsmith means that you can search cards like Magic Deflector, Different Dimension Ground, and Dimensional Barrier is already a huge problem in the game. And unfortunately for top 32, there's nothing really that we want to show as deck lists. There's really nothing new or innovative to look at, but in top 16, I think that there's a deck that may have some legs to it. According to Konami, the deck breakdown for top 16 was 57% Snake Eyes, 19% Yubel, that Fiendsmith Memento and White Forest Runic are still in there, as well as a Pure Runic and Tenpai Dragon. I think it would be best to look at Ibra Wayne's White Forest Runic deck to show you what Infinite Forbidden can have in store for us if the ban list goes the correct way. If you guys remember Naturia Runic, this deck is slightly similar. You have your White Forest cards that allow you to be able to synchro summon into some really powerful monsters, and your Runic cards give you multiple modes of operation. You can use them to be able to whittle down your opponent's resources and then go for game, or you can use them to deck your opponent out. But the really crazy thing about this is that Ibra came especially prepared for those long games. Not only is this man playing Ghost Sister and Spooky Dogwood, as well as emergency provisions for that time factor, he also has another trick. He can just summon out Moonin of Runic Wings to be able to gain 1,000 life points. So basically, if he wins game 1 and it's taken a long time, then Runic does take a decent amount of time, he can pretty much guarantee that he's going to win game 2. I think the slow-esque, stunish, grind, deck out / build your own board and use it to crush your opponent approach is probably one of the better things that we can expect in Yu-Gi-Oh when the ban list comes out. I do think that there's a slight possibility that the Runic cards get hit, but it's incredibly low. And one thing that I do know is that the White Forest cards are getting more support. So this strategy is only thought of to be getting stronger. Another deck in the top 16 that I want to show you is Clifton Land's Fiendsmith Memento deck. I am so happy that this isn't just a deck full of hand traps. There's only 12, which used to be a lot back in the day. And as you can see, this particular Fiendsmith Memento deck still follows the same lines. There's the Bestial monsters to be able to stop the Fiendsmith monsters if you go against them, and Mulchummy is that 100% guaranteed side deck card. The best thing about this is that this proves even when Snake Eyes does die, Fiendsmith will still have its place inside of decks like Yugioh and Memento. And then there's those other strategies that I talked about that could be seeing a lot more play, specifically because it isn't a tier 0 format anymore. Now, as for the blog, Konami decided not to give us any more pie chart. It's probably because it's the most disgusting pie chart that you've ever seen. With Fiendsmith Snake Eyes going on to dominate the rest of the event, I promise you it gets way more uninteresting. So I think it's best to just talk about this last deck list that just so happened to make it in the top 4. Carlos Hernandez in his 50-card Yubel deck isn't any normal Yubel deck. One thing I genuinely want to stress is that Beatrice needs to be banned, and the biggest reason is because this deck is built on being an FTK. It can win on the first turn. Basically, what you do is you use Aerial Eater to be able to send one Fiend monster from your deck to the graveyard, Archfiend Harris, and that gets you your Nightmare Archfiend to your deck to your hand. After that, you make Beatrice Lady of the Eternal and use its effect to be able to send Transaction Rollback and Earthbound Release, which allows you to be able to destroy as many monsters as your opponent controls as possible and inflict damage to them equal to that monster's attack. It just so happens that you activate Nightmare Fiend and give them 3 2000 attack tokens, and then every time those tokens are destroyed, your opponent takes 800 damage. This allows you to be able to win on turn 1, and it's thanks to Beatrice. It's easily some of the most disgusting work that I've ever seen from a deck list that has gotten far inside of a high-level event. And it just goes to show that if Konami really wants to go there and allow powerful generic Yugioh cards, players are going to figure out a way to break it. Now, I'm pretty sure there are some cards that you guys have observed that need to be on the ban list, and I want you guys to let me know what those cards are. As far as when is the ban list coming out, I think it's an incredibly tricky situation. We know for a fact that the ban list isn't coming out today. And one thing that I've noticed about Konami is that they're really involved in their Twitter account. They tend not to post anything but the ban list on their Twitter account if they are posting. We know for a fact that Konami has a theme going on where they post on Tuesdays and Thursdays about the 2024 Megatens, so I would probably eliminate those out. So that really only gives Konami 3 different time frames to be able to drop the ban list. I think that it's Wednesday the 21st when they don't have a scheduled post. Friday the 23rd is a little bit more logical, and Konami has posted Forbidden List on Friday, but I think the most logical case would be Monday the 26th. It allows them to be able to get as much data as possible from the events that happened over the weekends and corresponds with their post saying late August. Any other date past the 26th is a legit FU. But if you want to know about some more crazy things, I actually playtested using the new hero cards. You can go ahead and check out that video, or if you want to know a deck that will not be hit by the ban list and will still be really good, you can check out my hero deck profile that I just did. Until then, I'll catch you on the next one.